This is Prachi Jetli from IUSA Media, a very exclusive interaction with a very special guest sitting right next to me, all the way from Bharat. I'm talking about the author and a very well-known communication strategist, especially in the politics field. I'm talking about Priyam Gandhi Mody. And she's here right after the national launch of her recent book, and we'll talk about that book, we'll talk about the title and everything. But let's first welcome Priyam. Priyam, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Prachiji. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. Priyam, the recent book that is launched, that was launched recently nationally by Nadaji, it's the title itself, it has kind of invited many discussions.
Yes.
And how, first of all, before we go to the title, the inspiration about this book, how did you come up with the idea that I want to write something like this?
When Mahatma Gandhi passed away, his last letter, he had advised that the Congress party should be disbanded because the purpose that it needed to serve was served. And it need not be a political organization anymore, and it should change itself into a social service organization. So that is what Mahatma Gandhi picked Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru technically for, to lead a social service organization, not to become the Prime Minister of the country. And contrast that to very recently, Prime Minister Modi, in a very fiery speech, said that if Congress didn't exist, X and Y and Z were the problems that we wouldn't have had as a country. So then when two great minds of our country sort of intersect on a common thought, then it needed some research, and that's the idea behind the book.
So when the idea came to your mind, anybody that you discussed it with, that this is something that I want to write about, and what were their reaction?
No, generally, just my publishers. I mean, we discussed it, and they said, well, this is quite bold, and we'll have to really back it up with solid research and references, or then it can get really, controversial. That's how we went about it. That we wanted it to be a very research-heavy book.
And this is your fourth book,
yes,
right?
It's my fourth.
And the last book was published in 2019.
Yes. No,
in
2020.
2020.
Yes.
And
actually 2021, sorry. 2021.
So 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 years.
And how has been the reaction since the launch? Like, what kind of reactions, both positive and negative, what kind of reactions are you getting?
So obviously the sales have been amazing for this one. I think it has, we've run through many print runs. I think it's the title is attractive, the cover is very attractive, so people are just picking it up off the shelves. The response, obviously, it's divided.
Right.
People who support the Congress party are not very happy about what's there in the book. But I also find that a lot of young people who are swing, sort of voters, and they've not really made up their minds yet. A lot of them have come back to me on like my Instagram or Twitter and DM me that this has really helped us make up our minds.
Right.
So that's always good.
Absolutely. So now that we have created enough content for our viewers to think about the title, I would like you to tell about what went into the title. And I heard you saying once that this title is something that even Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, he himself mentioned this statement during one of his address.
Yes.
So please go ahead and let our viewers know about the title. It's a hypothetical title. Please go ahead.
Yes. So in his speech, Prime Minister Modi's speech actually was called Congress Na Hoti To. So his speech was in Hindi. So if you translate that to English, what if there was no Congress? So these are not my words. These are words of the Prime Minister of India. He sort of gave a 15-minute speech that if Congress wasn't there, we wouldn't have had like an issue with Kashmir. If Congress wasn't there, we wouldn't have had issues with women as much as we do. So it was a full 15-minute speech. So this book essentially is an expanded version of that speech.
So for all our viewers, the title of the book is What If There Was No Congress? And as Priyam just mentioned, the title itself was part of the speech by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. And Priyam, I saw a lot of research behind the book, and even each and every page has a research or the fact backing it up. How has been the research journey? Like where all you had to go for
Yes.
it?
So that was very difficult because a lot of controversial aspects in the contemporary history of India, a lot of them were brushed under the carpet. A lot of them are very, very difficult to find. A lot of my research is from, the UK resources. So I really had to dig really deep into it. So
Right.
the research, digging into the research took a lot of time, and then referencing it took a lot of time as well.
Right. And when we talk about Congress, sometimes it is treated as synonymous to Mahatma Gandhi. And I think sometimes, that is a great part, but maybe that's sometimes a sad reality as well, because what he started with and where we are right now, those are totally two different, I would say, thought processes. Any clarification of, as you mentioned, that Mahatma Gandhi thought of Congress to be a social service organization, but how it took the political turn, and then it became family politics as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And a little bit about the family politics, and now it has totally taken a different turn because now it is pleasing the minorities.
Right.
The conversion of the thought
Yes,
of Congress
yeah.
to what we have today.
So, okay, so let's go back a little bit into history.
Right.
That the Congress Party of India is not created by Mahatma Gandhi. It was created by the British. It was created by a British officer called A.O. Hume. And in fact, it was very active even before Mahatma Gandhi came in and became active around the 1920s, 1950s, 1915, 1920s. After Mahatma Gandhi, essentially he handed over the reins of the party to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. There was a separate section in the Congress, a very big section, which believed in armed resistance against the British. And now there is growing research which is now resurfacing that it is in fact that armed resistance which would be synonymous with other freedom fights
Right.
around the world.
Right.
That when you have to fight your oppressors, it has to be via armed resistance. So there is a lot of contention on whether it's the non-violence that got us our freedom, or was it really the armed resistance,
yeah.
just like the other parts of the world.
Right.
Having said that, the current Congress party and the first family, which is the Nehru Gandhi family, does not derive their Gandhi surname from Mahatma Gandhi. Let's make that very clear. They derive the surname Gandhi not because they are descendants of Mahatma Gandhi. They derive it because Indira Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru's daughter,
Right.
married a man called Firoz Gandhi, who was not related to Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay.
In fact, his surname was not even Gandhi. It was spelled something else.
Oh.
And she married that man and she took over his surname. And eventually they changed the surname to Gandhi and essentially let that narrative become widespread that we may be related to Mahatma Gandhi.
I see.
It was done for political benefit.
And how about the secularism line that they picked up right after, when it was seen different from what Mahatma Gandhi started.
Right.
They took to secularism.
Yes.
Was it like actually it was a secularism, or it was for votes,
So
or?
I believe that in definition, secularism means that every religion should be treated equally.
Right.
Whether you are a Hindu, whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Sikh, whether you are a Christian, whatever religion, it has to be treated equally. What the Congress follows is truly not secularism. It's some fake form of secularism where they believe that if you have to please, you have to please only the Muslim minorities. If you have to please, you have to maybe please the Christian minorities, etc., which was done in a certain era. So this is not real secularism because you're doing that at the cost of another religion,
Right.
right? So what they follow is not secularism. In fact, what they follow is appeasement. and appeasement to the Muslims,
Okay.
who are not even minorities. They are the second largest majority population in India.
So it's for the votes, it's for the
It's for the
political
votes.
benefit?
Yes, it's for the votes. It's a 20% chunk, and they want to get them to vote for the Congress en masse. So they make policies and they give statements to keep them as a voting bloc for themselves.
And coming back to like secularism was one thing, and then family politics.
Yes.
Because again, we see that in today's era as well. But going back to those times, how has that affected, I would say, the nation itself? Because
Yeah.
a lot of decisions could have been different,
Yes.
and a lot of issues could have been solved.
Yes.
A lot of safety issues would not have been there if the correct hands were given the power,
absolutely.
and the family politics was not
Absolutely.
involved.
Absolutely. Like I said, in the Congress party back then, which was essentially the major party that fought the British and the freedom struggle in India, there were very capable people. There was Sardar Patel, there was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, there was Lal Bal Pal, there was Shahid Bhagat Singh. There were a lot of capable people, Veer Savarkarji. There were a lot of capable people in the Congress. The Congress started to deteriorate essentially when the Nehru Gandhi family hijacked the party. And I mean hijacked because from 1928, essentially Mahatma Gandhi pushed Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to lead the party. Not only did Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru make himself the Prime Minister of the country, but he also passed on the reins in such a way that his daughter followed suit, and then Indiraji's sons sort of, one of them became the Prime Minister, one of them became like a shadow Prime Minister, After which you can see then it was Sonia Gandhi, even though Dr. Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister in the UPA term, it was really Sonia ji that was running the country through her National Advisory Council. So she held the remote control, right? So they essentially hijacked the party, and I think that has been very detrimental to the growth of the country.
So when you're talking about Rajiv Gandhi ji and talking about him, and after that, of course, Narasimha Rao ji and other leaders, how do you think, how would have they felt during the reign of Congress, because they were not part of the family? And I heard some statements where how the funeral and everything
Yes.
happened, especially for Narasimha Rao ji, because Babri Masjid event happened during
Yes.
his time.
Yes.
So you think those people were just the face, but the remote control was somewhere else?
Absolutely. And if you if they took a stance that was a little bit different from what Sonia ji wanted, then even after their death, they had to bear so much insult, right? Look at Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, for example. Like you said, the Babri Masjid thing happened under his prime ministership, during his prime ministership. When he died, it was custom. It is custom for a Congress Prime Minister to go to the Congress headquarters, for his body to go to the Congress headquarters for the last prayer. Prime Minister Narasimha Rao's body came till the gate of the Congress headquarters. Sonia ji did not allow the body to come inside, right? So, come on,
Right,
like how cold does one need to be,
yes.
and how disrespectful does one need to be to not even allow somebody who has died to follow a regular custom.
Right. So going back to Babri Masjid, now if we talk about the current scenario, which is the Ram Temple.
Yes.
And again, the Ram Temple issue itself is not very new,
Yes.
but the Ram Mandir Temple Pran Pratishtha happened somehow now after 500 years. You think it could have been done earlier if the power was in correct hands?
Yeah, absolutely, because the Congress governments kept misrepresenting facts in court. See, the court case has been going on for a very long period of time, fought by common Indians. The struggle has been very long. However, if we look at contemporary facts, then the Congress party kept misrepresenting the Hindu side of the story. They kept sort of this narrative on that Sri Ram was just, part of an Indian mythology, that Sri Ram was not real, that this wasn't history, So that was their narrative. Eventually, after Prime Minister Modi's government came in, the lawyers put the true facts in front of the court, basis which the court made the decision. And whether it is poetic justice or not, let the viewers decide. That it had to, that Sri Ram wanted to come back into his temple, and the Pran Pratishtha had to happen by the hands of somebody like Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who
Right.
is, who has fought for a lifetime for this cause.
Absolutely. And Congress leaders going to Saryu Ghat and now to to Ayodhya Bhumi. Your reaction on that?
So they've still not gone. I don't think that Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi have gone to Ram Temple. A lot of in fact, the Congress and its allies declined the invitation that the Ram Temple Trust took to them. To invite them for the event on the day of the Pran Pratishtha, they declined that invitation. And you're Indian, and I'm sure the viewers, most of them are Indian, so they might know that there are these lines in the Hanuman Chalisa that
I was hearing that statement in Ayodhya all over, and again, of course,
it was very common. I mean, everybody was saying that good riddance. That if the opposition didn't want to show up, and there were elements who didn't want to show up on the day, on such a historic day for our nation. I mean, if Sri Ram wanted to, he would have. But it's as per Sri Ram's wish that they couldn't come.
Another issue that I really wanted to talk about was, of course, in addition to Ram Temple, is the Kashmir issue. Finally, the issue has now been taken up so seriously, and things have changed there. And but when it comes to how things were when actually it got separated from Bharat, and how it was to appease these specific religious, I would say, minority or communities, you think that party that we're talking about was not sensitive towards the sentiments of Bharatiya and Indians, especially when it comes to Kashmir and the partition and how they felt about partition?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it is a fact that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru has given away 45% of land from Jammu and Kashmir to China and Pakistan. He has let these two countries take over 45% of Indian land from Jammu and Kashmir. So now parts of these lands are very strategic in terms of defense and national security, even for India. Why these lands were allowed to be taken over without really much of a fight, is something that the Congress party and the First Family still needs to answer to the Indian people. His very famous sentence that not a blade of grass grows there, for Aksai Chin when China took it over. He might think that, but the country doesn't, right?
Right.
Pakistan occupied Kashmir. It's ours. Why did we go to the United Nations when our armed forces were on the brink of a win? Why did he call for ceasefire? Why did he take the issue to the UN under the wrong clause is still mystery. So if he took it under the actual clause that this land is India's and there is an act of aggression by Pakistan, India would have been able to defend it even before the United Nations came to a consensus or a conclusion or a judgment. But no, he took it under the wrong clause, under the wrong section, where he said that this is disputed land. This wasn't disputed land. It is our land that somebody else, an aggressor, has come and taken over.
So nationalism, as far as the love for the soil itself, was missing.
Absolutely, absolutely. See, he called himself the last Englishman to rule India. So how can you expect him to be Indian in any sense?
And that's where my next point was, this brown complex. And many people suffer from that complex still right now. Things are changing now. We are understanding, like for people like us, like Indian diaspora, we feel proud, and we feel proud of the fact that we are from Bharat. but coming from, there is a sense of brown complex, and then
Yes.
that is not something new. That was there again, as I
Yes.
mentioned, because you mentioned that Pandit Nehru was very happy calling himself
Yes.
Englishman. Why this need to be an Englishman when you have so much, so much, I would say, spiritually or knowledge-wise or wisdom-wise, or I would say wealth, everything is there. Why? What was the need to be, identifying yourself with something that you're not?
So I think that again, if you look at the history, India had to go through thousands of years of slavery. Even before the British, it was the Mughals, and people who had this type of brown complex back then, or still do, they are very besotted by what what the rulers brought in. They are still very besotted by Mughal culture and Mughal architecture and Mughal way of life and all of that. They don't look at the reality that what happened and why did these people come in and invade us so many times repeatedly. What was there in that land that needed to be invaded? What kind of treasure was buried
Right.
in it, and the treasure was our science, the treasure was our manuscripts, the treasure was our wealth,
Right.
the treasure was the fertility of our land. So it really was sone ki chidiya,
Oh.
which is why they kept coming, different kinds of invaders, to steal from us. But unfortunately, because of how history, the real truth was not allowed to come out, because we was enslaved for so many years. There are people who don't know this, who don't know what's there, don't know what gold lies, in our
Absolutely.
manuscripts and in our country. And I think the Nehru Gandhi family is also a victim of that. So I think the way to get over this brown complex is to really dig into our roots for the truth.
Absolutely. So when we talk about our roots, Priyam, one thing which is very sensitive to me as well, very emotional, is uh, those leaders and their sensitivity towards cow slaughter at that time. And I know some of our saints, some of our religious leaders, especially Hanuman Prasad Podar also, I was reading his biography, he was sent to jail as well. And this is coming from the leadership that belongs to so-called, Hindu religion. How could somebody be so insensitive to as you talk about, the wealth of India, and cow is treated as
Like
the
a holy
holy,
symbol, yes.
absolutely. And the saints were jailed because they were
Yeah.
protesting against the cow
Yeah,
slaughter.
not just jailed. Indira Gandhi ordered open fire at them when they came to the parliament to ask for protection for cows.
Wow.
And after that, it turned into communal riots. So, I mean, they've not really been very sensitive about Hindu religious issues, most definitely. And most definitely doesn't compare to how sensitive they are about Muslim issues, let's be honest.
So all these, I would say, appeasing the minorities or appeasing a specific community for votes, coming to the current situation, is that continuing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, even here, I do want to draw that link between the past and the present. That when we gave away the chunk of land to Pakistan, when we agreed for an X amount of land to be given to Pakistan,
Right.
it was because there was total exchange of population that was to happen,
Okay.
right? All of the Muslims from uh, India were to go to the land that was given to Pakistan on the east and the west. But the leaders at the time did not allow for total exchange of population to happen, and they held that vote bank captive.
Okay.
Okay, and that has continued even today, where we see that then obviously that vote bank has grown, as compared to in Bangladesh or as compared to in Pakistan, where the Hindus that stayed back, look at look at how much percentage of Hindus were there back then, and look at the percentage now. Hinduism has not been allowed to flourish. In fact, people have been killed and murdered just because they were Hindu in their lands. On the other side, in India, the Muslims and any other minorities have been allowed to flourish. Their percentage keeps going higher and higher,
Right.
right? So, despite despite that, and this is because we are truly secular. It is because we are truly secular and we do not harm anybody who does not follow our majority religion. Having said that, since the vote bank has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, opposition political parties bring up issues that are sensitive to those
Those
people,
people.
once again, to retain that large chunk. Now, in this election that we're going through, the Congress party, for example, talks about wealth redistribution, redistributing wealth from the majority population to the minority population. And I say this again, that you'll do it one time, fine. You'll take the wealth from the majorities and you'll give it to the minorities. What are you going to do after that? It's a one-time exercise. Are you basing your manifesto on a one-time exercise? How are you going to create wealth? And have you asked the Muslim women that are they okay, if they are wealthy Muslim women, are they okay
give it
to split their resources to
poor
their
Hindu
own community? Even they won't.
Yeah.
you know.
Right, right, right.
But just to appease that certain section,
For the
which is
vote
that
bank.
on a 100-mark paper, if you have to start at a 20-mark score, then you have to do these kinds of things in politics, and that's what they do, unfortunately.
So current scenario, and especially India's image on the global platform has changed, especially in last decade. How do you see that change, and especially the culture also now? People here, they want to know more about the history, the religious background, and the wealth, the I would say the wealth of knowledge that India, Bharat holds. How do you think these two cultures, which is the US and
Yeah.
India, now can influence each other? Because I think we are in a kind of, I would say, a developed Kali Yuga right now when we talk about Bharat. So I think this is a time where good things are happening, and we wish the election results will come out in a way that it will continue. But how do you think these two nations can now influence each other in terms of culture, like culturally?
So very honestly, I think that today we are the fifth largest economy. In a couple of years, we'll be the third largest economy. All signs point to the fact that the next century is going to be the Asian century, where India is going to have, no doubt, one of the largest roles to play, right? Now, talking about intersection of cultures, for a very long time, the West has pushed their culture on us. That the way we eat, the way we dress, the way we think, the way we write, the way we speak is better than what you do. But now we are looking at a world where that hasn't really worked out for the West completely. We see that the original farm to table lifestyle that Indians still follow. We still follow farm to table. We still get fresh vegetables every day. We still make food every day, and we still eat that, right? It is the true farm to table philosophy. Or yoga, for example, meditation, breathing exercises, pranayama, manifesting. All of these words, they all find root in our scriptures. And the law of the universe, karma, all of that, music, Indian music. So we knew how to harness nature, we knew how to harness the power of the universe way before the West even understood elements of it, right? So I think now that we see India rising, we see that the West not only wants to take influences from us, but also hijack some of those things. Thankfully we've reclaimed yoga, that no, it's Indian, But I mean, this is all part of the soft power exercise, I think. It's good.
How about the strategic partnership between two nations? Because two greatest democracies,
Yes.
and both of them right now, again, when we talk about India, right now, the way it is developing, the way it's going, there is no looking back. How do you look at, if we talk about India 2047, how do you, what is your vision, and how do you visualize that in terms of relationship, strategic partnership with the US?
Yes. So I think, in this very increasingly globalized world, a country cannot cut off from a B country. and especially if two countries are going to be in the top three economies of the world, they cannot cut off from each other. In fact, thankfully, see, before 2014, we have to remember that for the United States, in the Asian subcontinent, Pakistan was the country of choice. Pakistan was the trusted ally. It is under Prime Minister Modi that the relationship between the United States and India has sort of really deepened in contemporary times. And we're only looking at closer association in very strategic sectors. So if you look at defense, for example, or if you look at space, our space economy is for both countries. It's increasing on an unimaginable scale. I think the next area of very, very close cooperation for our two countries is going to be deep sea exploration. Obviously, on the economic front and business relationships, those kinds of cooperations will continue to happen. But I think that we will be working together on such sectors that will have impact on defenses, right, and on security eventually.
Right.
So yes,
Good-
so the two
good-
largest democracies in
So
the
good
world.
things are
Yes,
lying
good
ahead.
things ahead, and I think that we've really kick-started that relationship between the United States and India over the last 10 years, and it's only bound to get stronger.
Absolutely. And Priyam, the release of this book in January, I'm thinking it's a pleasant coincidence with the elections, right? I
Yes.
mean, it's a blessing in disguise,
Yes.
not planned. But you think in a way, it happened. It was good that it happened because people have like well-researched facts, and people who were here, not here and not there, they have some ready facts with the index in the book itself, like where that fact is from. And
Yes.
it's well researched stories, and every story is backed by the data and where it's been taken from. And like people who are not sure, and then they don't know what all happened because it's a hearsay, and then
Yes.
they just hear about it.
Yes.
And so your concluding remarks or any updates about your next idea that you are thinking of?
I think I'll take a break from political writing. I've written 4 political books back to back, so I'll take a little break from political writing for a couple of years for sure. But I think that yes, it's a pleasure coincidence that it released at the time that it released. Obviously, like we discussed, that my last book was 2 years ago, so it did take me that much time to write this next one. If it was up to me, I would have released it 1 month ago. Like I would have released it in March,
Okay.
versus releasing it, in end
Jan.
of December or 1st of Jan. It would have, stuck on to people even more if I had done it with that, intent. But I think all's well that ends well, and I'm happy and I'm very thankful and grateful that people have loved and accepted it this much.
Your message, Priyam, for our Indian diaspora, especially our youngsters here in the US, because they are not they are not well informed, or they have not done that much research. This book, in addition to anything else, like any message from
Yes.
you to our youngsters
Yes.
in the US?
So I think that the youth, the Indian youth in the US is, I see a lot of them are so curious about their Indian roots. They want to find their Indian roots, which is why they go to gurukuls and they go to Vraj and they go to these different kinds of spiritual workshops and activities. What I want to tell them is that for India, over the next foreseeable future of 50 or 70 years, the youth is our largest demography. And not just in the country, but across the world. And not just any youth, extremely skilled youth is our largest strength. No matter where you are or how much you've achieved or which field you've achieved in, if you keep the best interest of your homeland in mind and work closely with folks who have the best interests of India in mind, in your own little way, you will contribute to making India stronger. And another message for the youth is that look into your roots yourself. Don't, without believing other people. There are all kinds of manuscripts that we have which have English translations now. Look at Gita Press. Gita Press is a publication house that has English translations of some of our
Everything.
best,
Yeah.
Vedic books.
Yeah.
So do your own research. I think they also have electronic books available now.
They do.
Do your own research, read your own books, make up your own mind, and don't lose that connection with your homeland, because that will keep you grounded, and that will keep you secure, and you'll always have home somewhere.
Oh, that's amazing. Awesome. And so the book is available on Amazon, and as Priyam mentioned, go and do your own research and find your roots yourself, not by the stories that you have been given, and then decide and then make your decisions and then feel proud of your heritage. On that note, Priyam, thank you so much. Congratulations on the
Thank
success
you.
of all your books and the recent one as well. And of course, we can't wait to read your next book as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. Thank you.